Welcome back to GPS to God. We are here to help you follow God's map to straighten your path.
It's rolling right off your tongue now.
I changed a little bit.
Good.
We'll see. It's still the only submission we have, so it's got that going. Yeah. But we are glad that all of you are here. Make sure you rate, review, subscribe. We want to hear from you. Podcast at parkwaybc.net. Reach out to us on Instagram, GPS to God. Just hit it in the search bar, and we want to hear from you. Make sure that you tell others about us as well. And if I didn't say it already, rate, review, and subscribe. We need you to do that so we have more visibility for people that you don't know and we don't know. And we will know them soon. But Simply Polyco, our lovely tumblers here, we are so glad that they have helped us out with that, and T-shirts and other things as well. Homemade and personalized items, anything you can want or imagine, they will give it to you. Well, they won't give it to you. They will sell it to you. But it is a great value. It's high quality. Simply Polyco on Facebook and Instagram. And, you can order one of these GPS to God tumblers. I did confirm with Brittany. She said, nice. Oh, yeah, we can do that. So
very nice.
If you want to be part of the club, order one. I have no idea what the cost is, but if you put in promo code FANO50, they'll give you 50% off. So, FANO50, that's your code for the week.
Sure, Brittany, appreciate that.
50% off. And, Brittany, if you can't do that, just... shoot me a text and I'll get in touch with Zach Edson. He will gladly make up that difference, I'm sure. So, Brittany did say she is a fan of the Gypsies name.
Okay.
So she said that gets her vote.
Yeah, good.
But we are glad that you are here with us on GPS to God. I'm Daniel. Next to me is Stefano. We have Mr. Brandon Shanks sitting in with us today. And we also have Lance Akridge with us today. Thanks for being here, Lance.
You bet. Glad to be here.
We normally don't introduce ourselves. We just assume, hey, we're big enough. You know who we are, right? we put our names on the screen. If you watch on YouTube, we do put everyone's name on the screen, but we don't verbalize it for those just listening. And we had a new listener, Amy Parrish. The very first thing she did, she subscribed. Yeah. After she subscribed, she said, hey, I have a suggestion. You should introduce yourselves. As soon as I read that, I was like, that's pretty common public speaking, anything one-on-one, like tell people who you are, and we just never do that.
Makes sense.
But Amy Parrish, thank you very much. That's a great suggestion, and we've done it. So we'll try and keep doing it. But Lance, we have to get through a couple things here first, so you'll have to bear with us. But feel free to chime in as well.
All right.
We've had a little bit of a contest here asking should our fans of this show have a name, like a collective, how you refer to them. So Gypsies was one that Stefano's wife sent in, and it's GPS, IES. So Gypsies,
like it.
Playing off the name. J.C. Swafford sent in a couple guesses this week. Babylonians.
Okay.
And I got... J.C. went with the volume discount. He... YouTube comments, emails, and Instagram comments, all in a span of about a day. But Babylonians...
Okay.
And he said, for those listening to Ryan, Stefano, and Daniel, Babylon each week.
Wow, that's pretty good.
All right. Well, sounded good, and then he kind of threw us under the bus there. But, and then he went with disciples.
Disciples.
I'm going to spell this.
Okay.
Again, capital G, capital P in it.
Okay.
Giciples. Disciples. So you get the GPS in there again.
Okay.
And he said a knockoff of disciples with GPS subbed in.
Got it. Okay.
And then, let's see, for a guest, the guest that comes on each week, he said we should introduce them by saying this week's GPS, guest podcast speaker, is.
That's not bad.
It's not bad.
Yeah. So
just don't give JC too much credit.
Not bad.
Here, we're about to pile on.
Okay, all right, good deal.
So he sent all this stuff in, commented on some videos. He actually got in a fight with Kiana about Kentucky. You know, he was really bringing down comments on the YouTube channel. But This is the last line of his email. You can combine my 2 gift cards, naming the audience and guest speaker, into one for ease of payment if you like.
Okay. Yeah. That sounds like JC.
Yeah. Well, he made up his own contest because the introducing the guest speaker, that wasn't even a contest we had.
Was not like the idea.
An intro slogan, kind of like
Correct.
an intro greeting. So he just made up his own contest there. Nice try, but probably not going to happen.
Yeah, no prize.
Gift cards are in the mail.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You check the mailbox every day for them. We send them digitally. But a couple weeks ago, Ryan told a story of he was running the bases in a softball game, fell down, tried to get up, fell down, and the softball team started calling him Crawfish because he's from Louisiana originally, even though he only lived there 6 months of his life. But he still claims it. But we had a guest order this and send this in. I'll hold this up for the camera here on YouTube. This is a metal crawfish. This is pretty well made. This is a handmade item.
Has some weight to it.
Yes, yes, indeed. This is from J&D Artistic Metal Designs. J&D Artistic Metal Design. So thank you very much for that, guys. We are going to put this up on the bookshelf.
Oh, you have to.
And see how long it takes Ryan to notice it. Because he won't know this is here until this episode airs. So
True.
Yeah.
We'll see how long it takes. I don't know. He's I say he doesn't even pay attention before this episode airs. And then we'll see if he listens to this episode or not. I guess we'll know.
I'm sure he will.
Well, that's enough of the goofing off. We're going to get into some real stuff now, the fun stuff, why we are here. We have Lance Akridge with us. Lance is the club director for Stars Basketball Club. StarsBasketballClub.com is their website. You can find them on Instagram and Facebook as well. Just put in the search bar, Stars Basketball Club, and you will see their page pop up right there for you. But Lance, thanks so much for being here. I know we're going to get into lots of good stuff, but why don't you just tell us a little bit about what is Stars Basketball, and then we're going to go back into the history of it.
Sure. Yeah, I don't want to rewind too much if we're going to unpack some history, but basically we're a basketball club that serves Greater Nashville. Really offer opportunities for first graders through seniors in high school to get on the court, and so we're a year-round provider of basketball, whether it be camps, clinics, what commonly referred to are AAU teams. We don't play AAU or tournaments much, but bottom line is we put teams together to play in tournaments on weekends. So you would call it travel basketball. So, but we have 2 other full-time staff members. We have a hub in Williamson County where we're primarily based, but we also have a hub here in what I call North Nashville, the Hendersonville, and do a lot of stuff out of Davidson Academy. And we'll talk about Stefano and his involvement, I'm sure, a little later. But yeah, God has really grown us to be probably the biggest basketball club in the state. And I don't say that arrogantly. I say it proudly because we are a faith-based club, and we try to just do things a little different than most clubs. There's some other great options out there for the young athletes and families, but we want to be the best option. And, our mission is planting seeds for Christ through the game of basketball. And we may talk about how we do that a little later. I don't want to get into other questions we may wander off into, but I'm thankful to be here, thrilled to talk a little bit about what God's been doing in our ministry and how we're hopefully impacting athletes on and off the court, and really proud of what we do and our coaching staff that we have. So
that's funny you say that. The last 2 weeks, we've had questions typed out for the guests that were here, and I'm not going to say we don't prepare every week, but we're trying to be better prepared, I guess. And we would ask one question the last 2 weeks, and those guests would answer 3-4 questions off of our sheet. And we're like, hey, just one at a time here. Right. So this week I prepared 0 questions, so we're just going to let it roll. There we go.
It's probably the best way.
It might be. So that's what we've been doing. So. But so Stars Basketball, let's go back into the history. We alluded to it a little bit. can you tell people kind of where you came from on the basketball side?
Yeah, and I'll tie it together quickly, I hope. Number one, for me personally, I always grew up in a sports household. My dad played basketball at Murray State, and my mom and dad were both school teachers. And anyway, 2 older brothers, just a big sports household. And I was blessed to grow up in a Christian household and grew up in church. But so I always had a love for sports, and went to college at Murray State, grad school, West Virginia. I thought I wanted to work in college athletics, and met my now wife, and became a CPA, believe it or not, and worked in Nashville at one of the big 6 firms. And I'll tell you this story because during that time we were church hopping over there in Franklin where we were living, and we were attending Clearview Baptist Church, and they started a ministry called Upward Basketball, which was probably in 1997, a long time ago. And they said they needed some coaches. And at the time, Upward Sports, a ministry out of South Carolina, was maybe 1 or 2 years old. And they said, hey, it's an outreach ministry, and we need coaches, once a week practice, once a week games, and pretty laid back, not super competitive. And long story short, my wife said, you should coach. So I listened to my wife, and I coached a team. And 4 or 5 months before that, I had given my life to Christ. And even though I grew up in a church household, never got there with my faith, but at that church, I accepted Christ as my Savior and was baptized. And then 4 or 5 months later, God put Upward in my path, and volunteered to coach a team. And then fast forward from that, fell in love with sports and sports outreach and ministry, saw how it could work, moved home to Kentucky to get involved in a family business and a group of young leaders that love basketball and love Christ. We did Upward at our church, and it went really, really well. Our church doubled in size in 2 or 3 years, saw lots of moms and dads and kids come to know Christ through our efforts. And I got curious to work for Upward. So went to work for Upward, worked for them for 14 to 15 years, and met people at Parkway Baptist, and Matt Megginson, Pastor Matt, and I worked together in getting, helping Upward get going here, etc. And then during my time with Upward, held some different jobs, moved to Spartanburg, moved back to the Nashville area about 13 years ago, was still working with the Upward sports and churches and rec ministers, but they wanted to start a competitive level of basketball called Upward Stars. And they had tried it 1 year in Spartanburg. It went well, and they said, hey, we know you like basketball. Would you like to be a guinea pig and do Upward Stars in Nashville? And I said, sure, let's go. Let's try it. So about 8 years ago, they turned me loose, and really didn't know what I was doing, didn't know what to do. I figured out quickly, you better have facility space or you can't play, and you better have some great coaches or you don't have a team, and then we'll go find the kids, So we did that, and God just built spider webs of connections, and we worked really hard. And I say we, my wife was helping me, and it was a lot of work. And facility space was always an issue, and but God has really guided us, and I mean that 100%. It hasn't been easy, but we have grown to where we are today based on having great relationships with people. You got to have great leaders, and we've got 50 or 60 coaches that work with us now. We probably touch 3,000 or 4,000 families a year now, and but that's how kind of Upward Stars began. And then about 3 years ago, Upward, the church ministry out of South Carolina that partners with all the churches still, they said we need to focus all our time, energy, and resources on Upward, and we can't do Stars anymore. And we had the decision to make internally here in Nashville, do we want to keep Stars going? And it was a God thing as far as timing, because when that divorce, if you want to call it that, it was a nice divorce. They helped us. When it was time to do that, we were at a break-even point in our ministry. So my wife and I looked at each other and said, hey, we've worked too hard and we love it. We know our coaches and people are making a difference in young people's lives through the game of basketball. Let's keep it going. And we became our own nonprofit, have our own local board of directors, and we've been on our own for 2.5 years now. And we are climbing that ladder, every year. We have about 40 athletes playing college basketball has played with us the last 3 years. Our high school boys teams are on the Under Armour Rise circuit, which is a big, big deal. Our girls' high school teams, which Stefano's involved with one of those, are playing at the highest, really the highest level. They're playing the big tournaments in Louisville and Indianapolis, et cetera. And then we've got little fourth graders down here playing, so we do fourth grade through 11th grade, programming, clinics, camps. But that's kind of how I got involved in sports ministry. And, today's youth, I'm 52. Today's youth and a decade from now, we'll say it again, they face more stuff than we can ever imagine when I was young. The peer pressure, the social media, self-esteem, depression, anxiety, mental health. It's a big, big deal, right? And sports is a great outlet for youth. And when you couple sports and get great coaches and great leaders like a Stefano that are going to pour into athletes on and off the court and try to coach with a discipline of excellence for Christ and just do it in a different way than probably is normal out there in the basketball world, then people, I think, like that. And I think it's evident that where we are today, how we've grown, people are craving more, and they do want what's best for their children. And there's some other great options, but we want to be, one of the best options around for kids, and God has allowed that to happen. So, long answer. So sorry about that.
Oh, no, you're good. We are here for those long answers. So. How can kids join this league? Is there a tryout that they go through, or does it depend on age? How can they get involved if they want to be on a team?
No, great question. And number one, we have a terrific website that's a lot better than it used to be. So number one, you can always go to our website, starsbasketballclub.com, and check it out. But to get involved, really, over here on the north side of town, we form teams in the spring. And so we'll have tryouts in mid-February all the way through the first week of March from fourth grade, usually up to high school athletes. So unlike what Upward Sports was, there are tryouts, and unfortunately we do make cuts. So, but that's one way you can get involved in the program is try out for a team. And if you make a team, then 2 practices a week and playing in area tournaments, etc. We also offer some summer camps over here in North Nashville at our North Hub, and also in Williamson County. We'll have camps every week of the summer. And over there, since we have facility space year-round, we can run programming clinics and camps really year-round. So we're in the gym almost every day of the week. Over there, we have a Dr. Dish shooting lab with 4 Dr. Dish shooting machines where a kid can get up 300-400 shots in an hour. And we have different Lab Plus products with speed agility stuff. So there's a little bit of everything you can do. So, and we're not just for the elite athlete. I mean, we do have A, B, and C teams, so you might be a young man or young boy or girl that sets the bench in middle school, but you might make our C team, you might make a B team depending on what the talent level's like. But usually our top teams are super competitive. But even at camps, first, second grade, it may be an entry level for that kid, right? We have all different kinds of kids at our camps, and we'll run a few invite-only middle school elite camps where we have the best players. So, it's better for competition for all kinds of, for the boys and girls for different reasons. But long story short, anyone can get involved. It's not a closed club, and if you make a team, you're the only one that gets to partake. No, it's open to everyone. So,
going back a little bit into the Stars basketball story, when you broke away from Upward, is there a reason behind that? Was it money? They were trying to shrink their focus back. Did maybe they expand too quickly, or what kind of precipitated that breakup?
No, great question. When they started Upward Stars, their goal was they wanted to see Upward Stars grow across the country like Upward Sports had. At Upward Sports heyday, probably 10 to 15 years ago, Upward Sports was partnering with, I think, about 2,000 churches. They were in 49 states. They were reaching 500,000 children a year through flag football, basketball, soccer, cheerleading. So everyone knew what Upward was, which is a great thing. It's once a week, volunteer coaches, volunteer refs, not super competitive, and they knew what it wasn't. They knew it wasn't reaching that higher level family that wanted more. So it was reaching and doing its goal as far as who they were reaching, but they all Upward looked at it and go, man, what about this kid though? So we want to be a player for Christ in the competitive basketball world. So when they started Upward Stars, their hope was to grow it all across the country. A lot different than Upward, because it was relying on a leader in a community to go find gym space, to go find coaches, to pay coaches. And it's just a different model, ministry model, if you will. So it did go pretty well in probably 15 to 20 cities. I was the only one, though, that Upward was paying as an employee, and so I poured into it full time. in Houston and in Florida and Atlanta. They were people that were like you, working full-time jobs and just dabbling in it on the side. And you can't dabble and do very much, right? So that's why it didn't grow as quickly and as large as Upward Sports did. So when they pulled away, it was to really say, Upward was like, hey, it's not going as well as we anticipated. And Upward Sports, with all the churches, we've got some things we need to address, and we need to focus our resources and what God has given us on that ministry. So that's why they stepped away. So we used to be called Upward Stars. We had to drop the name Upward, but we kept Stars, obviously. So we're Stars Basketball Club, changed our colors and logos a little bit, but we wanted to keep the name Stars because we had built good brand credibility in the market space, and we didn't want to lose that. And plus, they're the ones that helped us get going. So anyway, that's kind of how it all happened. Yeah, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. So, Fano, I'm going to ask you this question, but it's for Lance too.
Of course.
So the kids, the tryouts at different levels and, different abilities. What about the coaches? Do the coaches have to try out? How do they find these coaches, Mr. Star's coach over here?
We pay them big money.
Big, huge paychecks.
But that's huge paychecks. That's the thing. Is there a vetting process or what for the coaches? Because you are paying them, and it might be an 18-year-old kid that's just out of high school that really loves sports, wants to continue and start becoming a coach.
Right.
So how does that work, and do you have to get rid of coaches?
Well, I'll let you say anything you would like, Stefano.
Is your job on the line here, Fano? He only coaches about 4 teams.
As far as coaching goes, I mean, it's been like a blessing for me because there's not another league that – the main reason what attracted me to Stars is that it's all understood that we coach the right way. I mean, there's a lot of teams – a lot of clubs that you can get into that don't necessarily coach the right way. That is not God-focused. So that's the attraction that I have. That's what's kept me going, seeing these families. And like we said, they go through their varsity years or middle school years, and it's, sometimes it's a little rough for them. And you can see that whenever through tryouts and through the season. So it's a matter of my joy that I have in it is not, everybody wants to win, but it's more for me building these young ladies, young men up because they might get beat up a lot. They might just, because they come to us and, you wouldn't believe. First practice, they're deer in headlights when we say something as simple as shoot the ball. Well, my coach tells me not to shoot the ball if I touch it in the game. And this is not just one-offs or anything like that. This is so we sometimes have to spend the spring just building that player up and coaching them the right way and say, hey, this is how you play the game. You might we always start, and Jason McGee, he's the other coach that I partner with, we always start by, we'll never say anything disrespectful about your current high school coach or anything like that. This is just what we're going to do for the next, the next few weeks that you have with us. This is how we're going to coach you. So you do with that what you like. So, but all that, like Lance says, the community of coaches that we have in the program is amazing. Most of us have played basketball all our lives in various capacities and have the best interests of the kids. That's at the forefront with. Combined with a God focus. So, and that's just something that you don't get this day and age. Yeah. So,
yeah, and Stefano, he's gracious. He's an assistant role for us, so he's probably more or less a volunteer coach, and so his big contract's definitely not on the table. He might negotiate after this, but I tell you what, we've been super blessed to have great coaches, and it's we have about 50 or 60, like I said, about 80% are involved in the local schools, whether it be a high school head coach, high school assistant coach, middle school coach. A lot of former college basketball players, a few former pro players that played overseas in Europe. We have about 5 or 6 former Belmont players on staff. They're just top-notch, guys and ladies. And a couple Lipscomb University grads, Murray State grads coaching with us. They played there.
You got at least one Vanderbilt grad
player
because I locked him out of the gym the other night.
Vanderbilt, Eastern Illinois. I could go on and on about colleges. High Point that our coaches played at. But luckily, we have great retention of coaches. We have hired coaches, and after a year, you have to be great at 2 things. One, you got to be our culture fit. You got to be great at representing Christ on the court and sidelines. And if you're not doing that, you're not going to coach with us. And number 2, you got to know X's and O's. And we've hired a few people that maybe weren't up to speed on one or the other. And we've been blessed. Maybe in 8 years, we've had like 2 or 3 coaches we have not asked back. And we have about 90% retention of coaches because some coaches move, or some coaches, female coach has a baby, I need a spring off, or high school head coach says, man, I need a break, I need to be home this spring. But been super blessed to have great coaches, because at the end of the day, we can talk culture and we talk about being more than basketball. And we do. We bleed out that culture in our coaching staff. I think Stefano would say that. And the men and women we have involved are special people. They really are. But at the end of the day, those kids' experience and that family's experience, it all boils down to the coach, really. I mean, really. Yeah. And because you got 9 or 10 families you're trying to keep happy. And in the sports world, it's hard to keep 9 or 10 families happy because there's two initials, PT, and that stands for playing time. That's right. And so it's tough.
And every parent thinks their kid should get more.
That's right.
Every level.
But I'm telling you, the coaches are the key, and we've been blessed to have great ones. And I think this year's staff, I almost say it every year. Every year our staff gets stronger, and it's a great community. I mean, we have about 2 or 3 meetings a year where we corporately get together. We have some Zoom meetings too, but we get together 2 or 3 times just to socialize and fellowship, really, and to build community. So it's a great group of men and women, and really blessed by that. So.
Yeah. And it's very I mean, and there's things that we do. We have once a week we have character lesson devotions that we do at practice. So it's just a lot of stuff that we do. Some of the tournaments, most of the tournaments we have on Sundays. So if there's a team or a tournament that we're in, we'll be sure to do devotion that morning before we play. So it's all God focused. So that's the, like I said, that's the attraction. And that's what keeps me coming back and wanting to impact these young kids' lives.
Yeah, and we all know this. None of us are perfect. I'm certainly not. Sure. None of our coaches are perfect. But we just want to be consistent. We want to consistently represent Christ in how we operate our club, how we treat our families, how we coach, how we treat the refs, how we leave the benches. We want to be different. And like I said, the AAU bar out there, not to be ugly, but you could ask, it was set pretty low, and it's not about the kid usually. It's not. It's sometimes about the coach and what are you doing for me? It's more transactional and not transformational, and we want to impact kids on and off the court, and we want to help them improve on the court and make them be a better basketball player, obviously, but we also want to, most importantly to us, help them be a better young man and young woman. And 2 Corinthians 4:18 says we're not to focus on the things that are seen, but the things that are unseen. Things that are seen are temporary. Things that are unseen are eternal. Basketball, baseball, all these things we love, I love them, they're temporary, right? Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. What matters is, man, are we planting seeds for Christ in these young people's lives? And God's going to take it from there, right? We just do our part. I call our coaches farmers. Man, don't leave seeds in your pocket. Plant the seeds. God will take it from there, And I didn't know this. You guys probably did. Ted Quinn, who works for us, runs all our programming, clinics, camps, directs our lab. He worked for a ministry called Nations of Coaches, who worked with college basketball coaches in the South, et cetera, and is a ministry. You guys may know this, but I didn't know this till he told me. James Naismith, who invented the game of basketball, he invented the game of basketball to reach people for Christ. He's up there in Boston trying to figure out how to get people inside, right, during the cold winters of Boston. I think it's Boston. I'm pretty sure I'm right on that. And he invented the game of basketball to reach people and young men for Christ. And that's true. You can Google it, Wall Street Journal story several years ago. But James Naismith invented the game to reach people for Christ. So basketball is a great, great sport, and it's a great way to do lots of things with young people.
For sure.
So.
Knowledge bombs being dropped
Yes,
all
it
over
is.
the place.
I was not aware of that.
Me either.
Pretty cool.
That's very cool. Yeah.
When obviously you can't do anything during regular season, so when do you start after the state championship games? Obviously for state of Tennessee.
Yeah, no, great question. Yeah, for middle school athletes and high school athletes, we have to wait until those seasons are over because we respect the TMSAA and the TSSAA. So we usually have tryouts at the end of those middle school seasons, which usually is mid-February, early February. And then high school athletes kind of start trickling off mid-February, and then we'll run those high school tryouts all the way into early March because they cannot come to a tryout if they are still alive in the playoffs and dressing varsity.
That's right. Yeah.
Now, you might see some other tryouts happening in other places, but we're not doing it until it's over because we don't want to jeopardize a young man or young woman's eligibility for their high school team. Sure. Now, for 4th and 5th grade, we'll crank them up a little earlier because they're not under any high school or middle school jurisdictions. So that's when the team tryouts are for spring, which is our bread and butter. But also in Williamson County, due to that consistent gym space, we have summer teams for rising 4th through rising 8th graders. Those tryouts are coming up in mid-May. So we'll do 12 or 13 summer league teams for those age groups. And then in the fall, we run a little fall youth league on Saturday evenings over there that's bring your own team in. So we'll run that with about 65 teams coming in. We'll put about 15 teams of our own in that, just a little 5 or 6 week league, no practices for us, and just come in and play games and on a Saturday evening to kind of get ready for school sports, starting. And then we run, one of my favorite things is we run a huge high school hoops league in the fall. A lot of kids from North Nashville, Davidson County, Rutherford County, Dixon County playing it. But we run that on Sunday evenings because that's when we can get gym space from right after Labor Day through the 3rd week of October. And the whole purpose of that league is you sign up as an individual. Only 3 people from the same school can play on the same team. That's a TSSAA rule. So we form teams and make them as equal as possible. Last year we had a JV boys division, varsity boys division, and a girls division. I think we had 24 teams. So about 240 high school athletes coming in there and playing in that on Sunday evenings. And we run that all the way up through the end of October. And then that's when their high school basketball practices start about a week later. So it's a great way for high school athletes to get in the gym and get ready for high school practices. And it's a lot of fun for our coaches. Yeah. And selfishly, it's a great way for us to get to connect with some kids and see kids play and say, oh, man, we need to get that young lady at tryouts next spring, And so selfishly, that's kind of some scouting, but it's a lot of fun, that high school hoops league. So I hope that answers your question about the timing. Yeah, timing of, and we do winter teams too for little kids over there in Williamson County for 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. So we do a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff. Yeah.
Spring, summer, fall, winter.
Yeah.
You're right.
You can play basketball anytime.
Anytime. You can.
That's right.
So for the North Nashville, some of that stuff, I guess you could travel to Williamson.
Yeah, we do have several.
But for North Nashville, what's
springs are bread and butter. Tryouts in February, late February, early March. Then we're hoping to do 4 summer camps over here this summer. And we've done a little bit of fall programming at times on Saturday mornings over here when we can find consistent gym space. So we dabble in the summer over here in the Hendersonville area, Davidson Academy area, and then but we do plan on offering some 4 summer camps.
Yep. Okay. Yep. All right.
So I guess that kind of leads into another question of what are some needs for Stars basketball? Like, is gym space the biggest need?
Yeah, gym space is the biggest need. I mean, we over there at our Williamson County hub, we use the facility that used to be called A Game. It's on 215 Gothic Court near the Cool Springs Mall. It's now called TOA Sports Performance Center. We share that facility with Alliance Volleyball Club. So we sublease from them. So we're blessed to get 2 full courts. Each court has 6 rims. So we have 12 rims, really year round. And but we also have a great relationship with Battleground Academy. So we rent gym space from them all spring for our spring practices. And we use about 4 to 6 other gyms over there in Williamson County. And then over here on the north side, we're blessed to have a great relationship with Davidson Academy. We're over there every night of the week. Our teams practice twice a week in the spring. So we need quite a bit of gym space for our 48 teams. We have 48 teams this spring, 12 over here in Hendersonville area and 36 in Williamson County. So we're blessed over here to have great relationships with some schools due to our coaches. We use some various Sumner County schools and rent those gyms out as well. But yeah, without facility space, you can't do the ministry. So over here, we're kind of limited. 12 teams is the most I think we've ever had in Davidson, in North Nashville. And we can't really do more unless we have more gym space. And obviously Parkway Baptist here, you guys are great to us. We use your gym, I think 2 or 3 nights a week, and we're blessed to have it. And so yeah, you got to have gym space. So that's what we're continually, if we can just find one more gym one night a week, we can get 2 practices in, so that helps us. So that's the number one need really is gym space.
If someone was to hear this in another city, another state, another country, and they said, man, I would love to start something along the lines of Stars basketball, what is something you would tell them to look out for? What would be the most important thing, and what is some advice on how they can share Jesus? Yeah,
that's a broad question. That's I love people, and I think for me, Jesus, they asked him one day, boil it down real simple. I heard a pastor say this one time, hey, what's the purpose of our existence? And Jesus said, hey, love God, love others. I love people. I love networking, but you can't do anything without facility space, And then once you have facility space, like I said earlier, you got to go find great leaders who are going to be more than basketball, and we have those. So lots of prayer, but you got to have facility space, leaders. And then after that, you can go find the kids. If you got the right coaches and you got a hoop they can shoot on, right, consistently, you can go get the kids if you're about the right things, I think. And that's what we've done. And as far as the ministry side, you just can't ever make that second. Everything, I think you look at any successful college basketball program, high school basketball program, I think it all starts with culture. And it starts with relationships, and I believe that we've built a great culture here. Our coaches have built that culture with other coaches. They've attracted friends and people in the network to come and coach for us. And it's just a spider web of that, or snowball almost, that keeps kind of going downhill. But the ministry side for us has to be first. And I've told our coaches that all along. I love working hard, and whatever I do, I think I'm going to work pretty hard at it. But I can go sell widgets or go back to accounting work if I want to. If we were just doing basketball, I promise you I wouldn't do it because it's not worth it. I mean, it's not. To me, it's too much time, and we pour too much sweat, blood, and equity in it. But if we're going to plant those seeds and be more than basketball, then I'm all in, And so if anybody wants to start sports ministry, you better keep the main thing, number one. And God's going to take it from there. I think I would hope and think that he has given us everything we've needed. And I would hope that that's the case because we're trying to consistently, not perfectly, but be who we say we are. That's the first. That needs to be number one.
Yeah. And Lance does a great job, obviously. I mean, I don't know how he does it, but he shows up for tryouts. He helped us out at some of our tryouts and ran some drills and stuff like that. So, and he does that for multiple teams. So, he's been a huge example for me and blessing for me as well. Just I don't see how he does all of it, but he gets it done, and just not sacrificing anything for the culture that he's created. So it's been a huge blessing for us.
He's nice to say that. He wants to negotiate that contract.
That's
renegotiate.
That's not at all.
You remember what I said about you on the podcast? There's a gentleman at our church. You talk about planting seeds, and he had this say. He told me that, or a group. I happen to be in this group. He said it that we need to be willing to plant trees whose shade we will never sit under.
That's good.
So
it's really good.
The same thing. You're planting those seeds, and God is going to cause those to grow in His time, not our time. People move away, life happens, and you may not see the fruit that comes to bear from the seeds that you're planting. But I thought, man, that struck me. I had to think about it for a second when he said it. Plant trees whose shade we will never sit under. But once I wrapped my head around it, I was like, I love that saying. That's awesome.
That's strong. Yeah. And Stefano referenced it earlier, but the character lessons, the audience may go, well, what's that? What is a character lesson? But great thing about sports, whether you tie Scripture and God into it or not, sports, we all love them, right? We love sports. But we all know sports, I always like to play just high school sports. But I know it taught me, discipline and teamwork and sacrifice and perseverance, not giving up. And you can go on and on, decision making and friendships, relational. You can go on and on about all the life skills that sports teaches young people, right? And then it's so easy and natural to tie in a scripture verse to a topic like that, that you can relate discipline, making wise choices on and off the court. Was that a good shot or bad shot? That's a bad shot. Is not studying for your test a good choice or bad choice? Bad choice. So good consequences. Good decisions, good consequences. Bad decisions, bad consequences. Then you can tie in a scripture verse to that. There's a scripture verse that talks about a good tree bears good fruit, bad tree bears bad fruit. You're known by your fruit. I'm just saying there's all kinds of scripture that you can easily tie into topics that relate to sports and life that young people can relate to. Yeah. And then they do. And our coaches are delivering content like that in a non-forceful way, Q&A, relaxed, and kids talk, and it's just a great thing. And we've got some coaches that do a tremendous job, and that's after practice or before practice, And that's how those seeds, are planted. So
sure.
Have you noticed the kids absorbing one lesson better than others? Maybe that may not be a great question, but is there a topic that you hit on or your coaches hit on that is going to be a winner every season when that's presented to the kids?
Yeah, Stefano, you might have an example. I don't really know of one specific, lesson that kids certainly relate to more than others. Every coach has some of their favorite topics, I'm sure. So I know one of my favorites, and I'm not an Alabama football fan necessarily, so I just made a lot of your viewers turn off because I know we're in UT country here. But, Nick Saban, I read part of his book one time, maybe saw a podcast or something, but he was talking about these athletes, at Alabama, at UT, at any SEC school. You can get who you want for the most part, right, as far as recruiting. And so Alabama goes after all these top-notch athletes, and we tell our athletes, man, they got the pick of the litter, right? And Nick Saban's going after and guys, A&D, and not but guys. And kids will kind of laugh at that, and we don't want any but guys at Alabama. We want and guys. And what he means by that, man, this athlete, recruiting the same athlete, same guy with the same skill set, right? They can run so fast and catch the ball, whatever in football. I'm not a big football guy. Run that the 40, whatever. I don't know what it is. Jump, all those things. Bench, the weights. They're the same. But one kid, Andy's got a great attitude. Andy's a great teammate. Andy works hard, okay? Or the other guy, but he's a punk. But he's disrespectful. But he never goes to school. But he's always in trouble. So who are you going to be? You want to be the and guy, or do you want to be the but guy? And kids will laugh at that one a lot. Nick Saban is going to recruit the and guy. Okay, your high school coach is going to play the and guy or a girl. Talent's the same. The other one may not even make the team. Yeah. College coaches, when they're watching you play in these big NCAA live period events, which our kids play in, they notice if your motor's good. Is your attitude good? Is your body language good? All right, that's an and person, right? And so that's a fun one I think that kids can relate to. That's one of my favorites, even though I'm not a big Alabama football fan. So that's one of my favoriets.
Got to take the good quotes, the good lessons, no matter where they come from.
Yeah. Stefano, do you have one? No, maybe
just what we. I mean, a lot of coaches. I mean, within our circle and other circles, just being different. If somebody's there that more than likely haven't seen you play, and it's not a matter on like he referenced like the benches. Most teams just leave the benches, water bottles, chairs are straight. We always make it a point to kind of straighten the chairs for the next team behind us and everything, and watch out for them. So just doing things that are different, unusual, that unfortunately aren't seen a lot, but just the way you conduct yourself, whether you shoot a shot and you storm off or you get pulled out of the game and you're over there pouting, somebody's in that gym saying, this is the first time I've seen them play. Is that okay for me to do? And that you might be passing along bad habits no matter what. So you're always on stage, and you need to be aware of that, have that awareness. And that goes, and then we teach from freshman girls all the way up to junior girls. So just making sure that they understand that it's not, it's not all about you. So that's something that we like to hit on.
I'm not a huge soccer fan. I mean, I enjoy the game, and I know they are elite athletes, but that's about where it ends for me, right? But I saw not long ago the Premier League, biggest league in the world probably, it was a post-game shot of, I guess this guy's famous, I couldn't tell you, but he's on one of those teams, so he's pretty good. After the game was over, they were the visiting team. It showed him he was sweeping the locker room. All the grass and the dirt and everything from the cleats, and he was sweeping the locker room. A player just played in the game, and he said, I always try and leave things better than what I found it.
That's something.
That's awesome. A professional athlete modeling that is I'm sure there are many of them. We just don't see that these days. You know, it's about the popularity. What are they promoting? All this kind of stuff. Their brand, and not about how about you be a good person?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You know, I wanted to touch on something that Fano was talking about, and Lance has brought it up too, about coaches. I mean, and then I've been to some AAU games before, and it's nothing but a yell fest, and sometimes even a cussing fest, and you know, and that's obviously not the what's the word I'm looking for, the character that you want these, especially young kids, even high school kids, to see a coach acting like a complete lunatic. And you know, I just know from Fano and Jason McGahee that's not going on there. We were fortunate enough a couple of weeks ago on a Tuesday night. It was here, and we had a deacons meeting, and Coach Kim or
Clem.
Yeah. I mean, he was down there, and the guy was coaching, not yelling. There's a difference between yelling and coaching.
Right.
And he was coaching his team. I believe it was probably rising.
He's got eighth grade boys, rising freshmen. Yeah.
And I know a couple of them that were down there from T.W. Hunter. But, you know, in some of these coaches, they think yelling is coaching. That's not how you do it. Yeah. And like I said, he was coaching and telling them, going through drills. I mean, he was working those kids, but it was all in a positive way.
That's right.
Yelling and amongst other stuff is not, and they think that's the way it is. And you know, and I've been to some college games and sit behind the bench at a couple of college games, and I'm just like, wow. I mean, that's coming out of a coach's mouth, and you know, one of them used to be I'm a big UT fan. We had one at Knoxville. You know,
he's not at Auburn now, is he?
Yeah, he's now down at the Plains of Auburn. But and I've sat behind pretty close behind the bench to Rick Barnes, and you never hear that coming out of Rick Barnes' mouth. And you know, and I think the same things over at Vandy with Coach Stackhouse. He doesn't say a lot anyway, but you know, I think he's a pretty good guy. And I think I don't know that for a fact, but it all goes back to there's a difference between yelling and coaching. Right. And I was, you know, for your sake, that coach the other night was he was flat out coaching, and I know it's coming from when Fano and Jason McGahee are doing their team. I know it's coaching. They're not yelling their brains out at the players. So it makes a world of difference.
Yeah. No, I think there's definitely, I call it old school coaching. I'm 52. I think there's a lot of yelling, and every coach has their different style, but I believe there's a fine line there that obviously you can teach and coach and motivate. I've always said if you have to use bad language to motivate, then you're not a very good coach. No. You know what I mean? And so I think there's a fine line there, but teaching, encouraging, building up kids, bragging on people doing it right instead of jumping on somebody's rear end for always doing it wrong, bragging on somebody doing it right, which hopefully bleeds to everybody else starting to try to, I want to do it right too, man. Coach is bragging on, Jennifer, man, I want to do that too. And there's always different ways to say stuff, and we're big on telling our coaches, teach the why, why, don't just tell kids to do something, try to tell them why this is important, help them to understand the game. And we're also big on man-to-man defense. We don't require it, but I'm telling you, when you go watch our 4th and 5th and 6th grade teams play, we'll play man-to-man a lot because we believe that's the right thing to do at that age. Now, we may not win as many games sometimes because you can win more playing a little 2-3 zone at 4th grade because most kids can't shoot too good. But I'm just saying, we try to teach kids the game and do it the right way. And so I appreciate you saying that. But the coaches, I think the best coaches are the best communicators. They build the relationships with the kids. And I've always heard this, man, coach, because you care, I care. Man, you care about me. Well, guess what? I'm going to run through that brick wall for you because you care, I care, So kids got to know you care.
Yeah, absolutely.
Coach Glenn Clem, who you're talking about, former Vanderbilt basketball player, I locked him out of the gym the other night.
Oh, you did?
That's the one I locked out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, he wasn't mad. It was all good. Yep.
Embarrassing moments for Daniel. Unintentional. But so real quick, Brandon, you have a son who is a college athlete now, who used to play upward basketball here. How is it for a parent seeing that progression from, a little kid, youth basketball, to going to middle school, high school, and college, and seeing different kinds of coaching? And then how do you combat that if maybe you have a coach that's not a Christian or not as, not a builder-up kind of person? How do you combat that from the family side and trying to pour into your student athlete that may be disgruntled or discouraged or something?
Yeah, he played. Well, both my kids played upward here, and when Emily quit playing basketball, and whenever she quit playing upward here, but Jackson continued on to to play. He played all the way up to 7th grade here, and unfortunately, he did not make the middle school team at Knox Dawes where he was at. But he's developed great relationships with a bunch of those guys that were on that basketball team, and then he went to Beach High School there. So, and Jackson played at Beach. He played his last 2 years. He played for a great coach, Coach Josh Carman, at Beach High School, and he Coach Carman is with Full Count Ministries up in Hendersonville. It's a baseball league, sort of just like Stars.
Yeah.
And they have devotions at every practice, and during they play in the fall. But it number one, it all starts with myself as being a dad and being a mom, or not me being a mom, but Chrissy being a good mom. That's where it starts at first. It starts at the home first, and we have to, as parents, we have that responsibility for our kids, and then ultimately it all depends on who they're hanging out with, and we tried to kind of see where their friends are at, and hey, they've made mistakes. I'm not telling you that both my kids are perfect by no means. They've made their mistakes, but it's all who they surround themselves with. When they surround themselves with good people, they're gonna be good people, and so. But it's important to have to have good coaches in at wherever, Davidson, Beach, wherever you want to, where you want to go. It's important to have good coaches, and I know for instance, I know all the coaches over at Beach High School, pretty much all of them, and currently, and there are some really, really good coaches over there, and that really, really, really care about the kids. Yes, they care about winning. Don't get me wrong. Everybody wants to win, but they ultimately care about the kids, and that starts, at the top with the administration and the athletic director, and it starts there, and then that all trickles down to all the coaches there that coach the kids there at Beach High School and Davidson Academy and wherever your kid's going. So it's important.
Well, Lance, thank you so much for being here. StarsBasketballClub.com, Stars Basketball Club on Instagram and Facebook. Are there any other ways that people can reach you? Is that the three main ways?
That's the three main ways. Yeah, we have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We even have special high school boys and girls accounts on Twitter and Instagram for college coaches to follow our high school athletes. We created that about a year ago. So we kind of have separate audiences. Facebook's a catch-all, really. But yeah, you can stay up to speed with us on social media. We've got 2 other teammates that work full-time, and one of those a young lady does a tremendous job with our social media, and so we put a lot of stuff out there to brag on our kids, and we do a lot to help them in the recruitment circle. So that's how you can keep up with us, that and our website. So thank you.
So if you would like to reach out to Stars Basketball Club for a tryout for your son or daughter, or maybe you're a coach or would like to coach and get involved there, maybe you would like to let them use your gym space. You have access to a gym, or maybe you just want to be a prayer partner. Give them some money. Everybody likes money. You can give us some money too. Podcast at parkwaybc.net. We will, by all means, let you know how you can donate some money. But Stars Basketball Club, reach out to them if you are interested in playing, coaching, praying, whatever may interest you and help you. But Lance, thank you so much. I mean, we can tell your passion for the kids, passion for planting those seeds, pouring God into them, and they are going to go out and continue that in their lives as well. So thank you so much for being here and sharing your story.
No, I certainly appreciate it. Enjoyed our conversation, which was mainly one-sided with me talking, but enjoyed it immensely. So thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Fano, you got the exit.
I got the exit. Okay, so we'll do, there's a verse, since we were talking about kind of community. So this was part of my devotion today. So it comes from Hebrews 10:24. It says, "And let us watch out for one another to provoke love and good works, not neglecting to gather together, as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging each other, and all the more as you see the day approaching." So we're not made to walk this walk alone. So having, being together, being part of organizations that promote community and God-focused, that's what we're made to do, and to spread the word out to everyone. Yep, so.
Again, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to GPS to God, and we will see you all again next week.
We hope you're enjoying GPS to God. Rate, review, and subscribe across every platform you use. Help us spread the word by telling your friends and family to watch, listen, and subscribe.